Welcome in to another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. I'm occasionally as your mayor of PHNX. This man next to me, of course, occasionally as your vice mayor, always known as my thunderstick, Jesse Friedman. We got Charles Woodall Pike in the house. We got Damon Dog in the house. It's a full house, and we are excited because the Diamondbacks absolutely put it to the Colorado Rockies in their first series of the year, winning the 4-game series by a score or a count of 3-1, 3 games to 1. Yeah. And as far as the runs are concerned, beat them by a whole lot of runs. And of course, you know, we want to get excited about it, but we're gonna tap the brakes a little bit. Before we get into that, though, we did want to welcome you into the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast presented by Factor Meal Kit. Head to factormeals.com/PHNXDbacks50 and use code PHNXDbacks50 to get 50% off. Ski to you, ski to the Diamondbacks, and no ski to the Rockies. But the Diamondbacks did do exactly what we thought that they could do. I mean, we discussed what would be a successful series here against the Rockies, and I think taking 3 out of 4 is pretty much the best possible. I mean, you could have wanted them to sweep the series, but that's very hard to do in 4 games against a professional baseball team.
I mean, are the Rockies a professional baseball team,
after
Derek?
Watching that series, I do not know.
There were moments where I had questions. Tovar, rough series for him defensively. Rough series for a few Rockies defensively. I mean, I think a sweep was not I don't think that's way too much to ask against the Rockies, but I don't think people are disappointed taking 3 out of 4. D-backs outscored the Rockies 32-14. It's not like they were just barely getting by. They really did dominate the series despite what happened on Saturday. Overall, in the big picture, they really took it to the Rockies, and it's hard to really hope for anything different than what happened over the weekend.
Well, we do have some takeaways, 5 takeaways, in fact, from the Diamondbacks opening weekend. And of course, the first takeaway, of course, being that the Rockies are very, very bad.
They're
I think that's the main point here. As much as we want to get excited about everything going on right now and the way that they have played against the Colorado Rockies, it's still the Rockies, right? And nice try, Marcos, but we're not falling for any of that shit today. Anyway, back to the Rockies. You want to get excited. Obviously, you want to feel like this team is exactly as I guess as powerful as we saw them be offensively in this 4-game series. But it's just against a team that isn't really good. And I mean, we saw them make a lot of mistakes in this series that led to the Diamondbacks scoring as many runs as they did. So I don't know if you want to get too excited. They do have a pretty substantial test here against the New York Yankees coming into town, and I would gauge their Diamondbacks season a little bit more on what happens in this Yankee series versus what happened against the Rockies.
I mean, the Yankees just swept the Houston Astros, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, going in and doing that to Houston in the first series of the season is pretty impressive, especially not having Garrett Cole makes it all that much more impressive. So
for sure.
This is a big test for the D-backs upcoming. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But the Rockies are possibly worse than I thought they were. In my head going into this series, the one thing that I felt fairly good about with the Rockies was their defense. Having Brenton Doyle in center field, Jones with a cannon in left field, Ezequiel Tovar was a Gold Glove finalist at shortstop. Ryan McMahon is a really, really good third baseman.
Tovar did not look like any kind of anything.
Tovar was
-4 outs above average, I believe, is what I saw in one series.
He had -4 outs above average in one series.
I can confirm that. That is correct.
That's correct, right? Yeah.
Wow.
They made a highlight reel of every single time the ball got hit to him. I guess you could say a highlight reel, but it was just a reel of.
I mean, that puts him on pace for like -162 OAA, which is pretty. That's pretty rough.
Pretty wild, right?
Yeah, and Nolan Jones in left, man. Like there were a few fly balls in foul territory that feel like most left fielders get to. And I know he doesn't have a ton of experience playing at Chase Field, but he just like couldn't make those plays. Yesterday, we saw him clank a routine fly ball that was in fair territory, that was as routine as you can really get.
Yeah.
And it wound up costing the Rockies 2 runs.
Yeah.
That is a really bad baseball team. It is a very, very, very bad baseball team. We talked the other day about where Cal Quantrill would fit in the Diamondbacks starting rotation depth. Like maybe he would be 8th or 9th. You could have the same conversation with Kyle Freeland, their opening day starter, right? Like does Kyle Freeland even make the Diamondbacks rotation? Would he be their number 5 guy right now? I'm not necessarily sure that he would be. So it's a very, very, very bad baseball team, possibly worse than I even anticipated. Yeah.
Well, Elise says, the Rockies did have some decent arms in the bullpen. She also said a little while ago, known baseball GM, Elise, of course, that they still lost the game to the Rockies, right? And again, that mostly, I think, amplifies the reason why the Diamondbacks right now very much are missing Eduardo Rodriguez, and could be why they added Jordan Montgomery. We've talked about the reasons why. We know that we've kind of heard some dissenting opinions on it, right? We've heard for the most part that the Erod injury was never bad enough that they actually went after Montgomery due to that reason. I think it might have just been a little coincidental as far as the timing is concerned and when he was available on the shorter term deal. Like we saw from Scott Boras, he said that once it was known that Jordan Montgomery was going to accept like a 1-year deal, almost everybody was all in on him. A bunch of baseball teams wanted to be all in on him. But what we saw out of Tommy Henry wasn't great. 4 innings pitched. He allowed 5 earned runs. He walked 2, struck out 4, gave up 6 hits. And I mean, obviously, the Diamondbacks, it's not to say that they didn't, come back and give the team a chance to win. The bullpen was not great in that game either. Luis Frias gave up 2 earned runs. Bryce Jarvis gave up 2 earned runs. So that bullpen
was rough.
It was a rough game all the way around. But you could definitely see that the Diamondbacks are, they have, 3 games out of the 5 that are taken care of. But there's definitely some question marks when Tommy Henry is in there. And we still don't know what we'll see out of Ryan Nelson tonight against the New York Yankees. So the addition of Eduardo Rodriguez back to the starting rotation is going to be a very pleasant one, because I think even with how bad the Rockies were, you saw what they could do against Tommy Henry. Tommy Henry's still very good, and I don't think all of his outings are going to be like that. You can just see, though, the significant drop-off, from starting pitching from Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly to Tommy Henry there in the 3-hole. And it's a big reason why the Diamondbacks I think it might have just been the fact, honestly, too, that one injury to Eduardo Rodriguez suddenly makes this rotation that looked really good not look so solid, right? So it's like you kind of feel like that could happen at any point to any of their starting pitchers. You needed to go out and get somebody else. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's just a matter of adding depth, right? And depth is always a good thing. Eduardo Rodriguez being injured even just for a few weeks. Yeah, I mean, if you have a few weeks with Ryan Nelson and Tommy Henry in your rotation, the reality is you don't really know what you're going to get. Nelson looked pretty good in spring training. We'll see how that translates to an actual game today. Henry, I still think is a pretty decent starter. I think if you gave him 25, 30 starts, I still think he could be a decent back-end starter in this league. But the Diamondbacks are obviously going for it this year, right? And they don't want to put themselves in a position where they're counting on players where they don't really know what they're going to get. So yeah, it just, you think back or you think ahead to a few weeks from now when theoretically Montgomery is in the rotation and Eduardo Rodriguez is in the rotation. Maybe you actually do sweep the Rockies because you have a better starting pitcher. And maybe starting this Yankee series, how good would you feel if Jordan Montgomery was on the mound against Luis Gurriel tonight, right? Like it changes the dynamics of everything. So knowing that that's right around the corner, it certainly gives D-backs fans something to look forward to.
Groundhog Mama legitimately made me laugh when she said, "Don't tell Cogs I'm here and not listening to his show." We won her over against her own son. So that makes us your sons now, Groundhog Mama.
Yes,
we're your favorite children now. 2BMC has a good point. He said, honestly, not sweeping was a mild disappointment.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that you could say that, but I will say splitting the series would have felt like a huge disappointment.
That would have been like a big disappointment.
After the first 2 games, if they would have come in and lost the final 2, I don't know how, positive I would have felt about going forward. But that brings us to our next point, which is that Lourdes Gurriel is absolutely on fire. I didn't have to dye my hair purple this year in order to make it happen. He is 8 for 17, slashing 471, 526, 1.118 with a 1.644 OPS, 3 home runs, 10 RBI, 6 runs scored, tied a record with Luis Gonzalez and O-Dog for the most runs scored through 4 games, set his own franchise record for most RBI through 4 games at 10, and set a team record with the most home runs through 3 games with those 3 dingers.
It's pretty good.
Kind of glad we brought him back. We were talking about his WAR today. He's on pace to already outpace his WAR from last year by next week, it feels like, based on how he's doing.
Pretty close to that.
Yeah.
He's on pace for a 24.3 WAR season. Now, granted, that's him playing all 162 games. So we should probably dial it back. Maybe 23 and a half, be a little bit more reasonable there. I think I'm maybe getting ahead of myself. But yeah, an outstanding series from Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And we talked with him about this in the clubhouse the other day, just if kind of his familiarity with the organization coming back for a second year is contributing at all to him just really in spring training. He looked good. He obviously looked good in this series. And he talked about one thing that he really likes about this team is that there's not that much pressure on any one player, specifically on the position player side. And that's so true, right?
Yeah.
Like if Lourdes Gurriel has a bad week, the Diamondbacks can still win games that week, right? If any one player, even if a couple of players in this lineup, really struggle for a week or two or whatever, like Corbin Carroll didn't do that much in this opening series, but it doesn't necessarally matter because there's enough depth in this lineup that other guys can help fill in those gaps. And
Catel's killing it. He set a record for most 3-hit games to start a season. I mean, the records are being set everywhere by this team in this series. And yes, you want to say it's only the Rockies like we did, but it's still doing it's taking care of business. It's doing exactly what, we thought you could do, but I mean, even bigger and better than we thought, right? Currently ranks second in baseball in FWAR at 0.6 behind Mookie, or as Damon would pronounce it, Monkey Betts. He's played 2 more games than him, or at least 1 more game. I don't know. Did they have a 4-game series? 2 games?
Two more games.
And Lourdes is currently on pace, Jesse, for a 122 home run season, 405 RBI, and that 24.34. We could, like you said, dial all of those back a little bit. Maybe 109.
I don't think he's going to get to 122 dingers.
Maybe 100.
Maybe 110, 105.
That seems way more reasonable.
Yeah, that's more realistic.
A lot of this damage has been coming early, and that brings us to point number 3, or takeaway number 3 about this series, and that is that the Diamondbacks have been first inning assassins in this game. I think it sets a tone that the Diamondbacks are able to come out and thump their opponents the way they are as early in these games. D-backs scored 2 runs in the first inning in each of the last 3 games of the series, and then three runs in the first inning.
First 3 games of the series.
First 3 games of the series, and then 3 runs on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it just does so much for, fans in the stands who are like just sitting down, just getting comfortable, and, team's already up 2-0 or 3-0 right away. There's nothing better in baseball than just kind of getting out to an early lead and playing downhill baseball, as Torey Lovullo likes to say. And the D-backs did a lot of that in these 4 games. And
I mean, you can say as far as a negative goes, is that they haven't been scoring late in these games, and that's one thing that's a concern. However, when you go up early, it is a little hard to keep your foot on the pedal the whole time, I guess. And I mean, that's something probably we want to see them doing. That's something it would be nice to see, but at the same time, they're giving themselves such a substantial lead early on that it's making it, essentially kind of easy for the starting pitcher at times to go out there and take care of business. Really, with Tommy Henry, it was his 3rd time through the rotation, which typically Torey Lovullo tries to prevent. But, with these guys that are getting a starting opportunity, it's not the playoffs. It's not Brandon Pfaadt in the playoffs. He's going to let them go out there and see what they can do. We definitely saw. I mean,
I think Tommy, if I'm remembering right, I think he only faced 1 guy the 3rd time through.
Was it?
Right? I think Charlie Blackmon got a 3rd at bat against Tommy Henry and doubled. It wasn't pretty big. Yeah. It was a pretty big at bat. But yeah, he wasn't great in his start. But yes, going back to the Diamondbacks scoring a whole bunch of runs to start games and not scoring runs at the end of games, I guess you give them a pass in the 16-1 outpour that happened on Thursday, where I think everyone Once it was 16-1, I think people were just like, all right, let's just go home now. Like the Rockies hitters weren't necessarily doing much. The Diamondbacks hitters weren't doing much at that point either.
I leave here, and most of you might know this, and I'm sorry to be pulling the curtain back on the rest of you that don't know this, but I have to leave in the middle of the game to come here to the studio, start working with Damon Dog, getting the show ready. Meanwhile, Jesse stays at Chase Field. I left in the bottom of the 6th or the top of the 7th, right in that area. It was very difficult to get out of the stadium. Let's just say I by far was not the only person leaving on opening night during the 6th inning, which frustrated me quite a bit because it makes my job harder of getting over here to our office. But I think it also illustrated that people could easily leave that game knowing the Diamondbacks were going to walk away with the win with how much they were up. And as we kind of discussed, and some of you even said, that game even got a little boring. And I'm sorry, when your team's this very good, sometimes games are going to be boring.
Yeah,
you're gonna go up early.
Get used to it, D-backs fans. You're just gonna have to be bored like 30 or 40 times this year. Getting ahead to our 4th takeaway from this game or from this series. A couple of newcomers for the D-backs got off to really, really strong starts. Eugenio Suarez, 6 for 14 in the series. He did hit his first home run as a member of the Diamondbacks. He only struck out twice, which also stood out to me. We didn't really see a lot of the dreaded swing and miss that people talk about so much with Eugenio Suarez. He was making contact. He was spraying singles like all over the place.
Or Jock either. Jock too. Like I mean,
Jock did not strike out at all. Strikeouts are less of an issue for him.
He walked. He got hits. He absolutely tormented Tovar. Like that. It, just everything about it. And I think that's the greatest part is that these guys made an immediate impact. There was no doubt after seeing. Jock went 4 for 4 in his debut. Like the way that these guys came out and immediately contributed to this team, I don't know how you can't get excited about the additions. You know
that 4 for 4 though. Let's be real. There's a bit of an asterisk on that 4 for 4.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare do that! Don't you dare do that!
I think the first one should have been a hit. That was the double. That was in the gap. Nolan Jones did a pretty good job getting over to it, and then it bounced off his glove. I think you could give Jones a pass on that one. But yeah, Jock Peterson should have had no more than one hit in his first game on Friday. So just making that clear. But still, yes, he did have some pretty good at bats, and maybe he shouldn't have been 5 for 7 at the end of the series, but still a good start for both him and Eugenio Suarez for sure.
And again, the final takeaway from the series for us is that the depth for this team is pretty damn good, because what we've seen out of the guys that got sent down to Reno so far is very encouraging. And of course, we know that inevitably Ryan Nelson and Tommy Henry or Bryce Jarvis, I don't know what combination. I don't know who's going to end up down in Reno, but when Montgomery and Rodriguez come back, obviously there's going to need to be some changes made. And that is just going to, I think, add to the AAA depth and add to this Reno team being very good. But Slade Ciccone, excellent in his debut.
Yeah.
Christian Mena, also excellent. Neither guy gave up a run. Jesse, Ciccone, 5 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Mena, 5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, 6 K.
Yeah,
gotta love it.
I think the Diamondbacks AAA rotation is going to do some serious damage in the Pacific Coast League this year, especially. We don't know exactly how things are going to look once Erod and Jordan Montgomery are ready to go, but I guess the baseline assumption is that Nelson and Henry go down to AAA and serve as depth. Maybe there's an opportunity for Nelson to jump into the bullpen. I feel like that's less likely for Tommy Henry. Maybe they would go down that road as well. I think we have a mailbag question about that later. But yeah, I mean, just Christian Mena and Slade Ciccone, those two guys got off to really good starts. The Reno Aces outscored their opponents 19-4 in their opening weekend. I think they had a rain out, so they went 2-0. But yeah, that AAA team is really, really good. Kevin Newman is back there. He opted out of his deal with the Diamondbacks, but it appears that he signed back on a minor league deal, so he's going to play down there. Kyle Garlick was in spring training and camp trying to earn a job. He's down there hitting the ball hard as well. So the Reno Aces are going to be a pretty darn good team in the Pacific Coast League this year.
Well, not all was good. Not everything was good. We do have some bad notes, I guess, some bad takeaways. First, Alek Thomas left Sunday's game with left hamstring tightness. That's not great, nor was it great the way he was swinging the bat, really, in the last 2 games. Like, it felt like we were seeing a different Alek Thomas in games 1 and game 2, and then in games 3 and 4, it really felt like Thomas took a step backwards. I'm not sure if that hamstring had anything to do with his swings, but it definitely looks like he was uncomfortable when he left the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I feel like this does happen with Alek Thomas. Like I think back to the postseason when Alek Thomas, I think it was like the first game against the Brewers, his at bats were just terrible, right? Mm-hmm. And even the second game, I think the beginning of that second game, Thomas did not look good at the plate either. And then suddenly hit a really big home run, and we saw him be pretty good throughout the rest of the postseason, right? So he is someone who I think can go from looking just miserable to looking great to, and some of these mechanical changes that he's made, maybe his old habits catch up to him every now and then.
Like leg kick.
Yeah.
Leg kick gets pretty big at times, man.
Yeah. So I think maybe he still has to shake off those old habits a little bit more, and that contributes to that. But he's always been a guy in my mind where, he can look terrible in his first at bat and then come back and actually have a pretty good plate appearance the next time around. As far as the hamstring is concerned, we don't really have an update on that yet. It sounds like Thomas is going to have imaging, so hopefully we get an update on that today, and hopefully it's not too significant.
What do they do without him? We talked about this exact scenario.
Yeah,
and I mean, is this where Jake McCarthy takes over and becomes their everyday center field?
I mean, I think this is why Jake McCarthy was on your opening day roster, right? If Alek Thomas goes down and you're moving Corbin Carroll to center, I don't know if you want to be putting Jock Peterson in right field, right? Jake is totally able to step in and play the corners. He can play center field if you need him to as well. So Alek is the best center fielder on this team. There's no question. You're going to be taking a hit defensively, but Jake McCarthy's a player where, if McCarthy's in there playing a corner and Corbin slides over to center and you've got McCarthy's bat instead of Thomas's bat, I do think that is a bit of a step back, but I don't think it's huge. I don't think that losing Thomas for a few weeks would be something the D-backs couldn't overcome.
All right. Well, another thing that we're not too sure about is what's going on with Zach Gallen.
Yeah.
It's hard to judge Zach Gallen based on a number of factors right now. The biggest being that he was in an absolute blowout victory in game 1. So we don't really know what he's going through, right? If he's just kind of in cruise control because of the lead he had or what. I mean, he still had himself a great outing. It just was very un-Zach Gallen-like when it came to some of his numbers, including his velo on his fastball. We also had the fact that Zach Gallen did mention that he wanted to get out there and hit at one point with the way things were going on. In honor of that, I need to change hats because Jesse got me an incredible birthday present. It's this beauty right here. This is my birthday present from this wonderful man.
I didn't think it would go with your outfit very well, but I think it might be okay. So I guess it's just the teal versus the turquoise.
Yeah,
it's not an exact match.
No,
it still looks pretty good. It still looks pretty good.
We're going to the batting practice cap because we're going to talk about Zach Gallen, the hitter, obviously. No, what we are going to talk about though is, are there concerns about Zach Gallen's performance and where some of his numbers are at, or do you think that this might be attributed more to his short off season, the number of innings he pitched last year, just a little bit of fatigue?
I think some people are probably surprised we're even talking about this. Like Gallen threw 5 innings and gave up 1 run and it looked fine.
What's the problem?
Yeah. So it's nothing too alarming, but I dug a little bit deeper on some of the numbers from his outing on Thursday. We noted during spring training that his stuff was down a little bit. The velo was down a little bit. And getting him in an actual game and kind of seeing what that looked like. The velocity didn't really tick up. Gallen averaged 91.8 with his 4-seam fastball, which I don't have it in front of me. I think that's either like the 3rd lowest or the 4th lowest of any start in his career. When he first came up back in 2019, his velo was a little bit lower. Those were the other ones that were below it. I think there was one start from 2021 where his fastball velo was lower. And the other thing that really stood out to me was that his vertical ride on his 4-seam fastball was about a full inch lower from where we saw it last year. So again, it's a subtle thing. It's not something that I'm necessarily too concerned about at this point.
Unless it carries on, right?
But if it carries on, I do have some real questions about if Zach Gallen with a 92 mile an hour fastball and an inch less of ride, I think that could be a problem over the course of a full season. Not that like Zach Gallen would suddenly become terrible, but I'm not sure that Zach Gallen would be a number 1 starter if or would be like a Cy Young caliber pitcher if those numbers carried on. So it's still early. We know what he went through over the offseason, the short time that he had to get ready for this season and whatnot. So I'm not overly concerned about it yet, but it is something to monitor. I was a little bit alarmed when I saw those numbers.
Gabriel in the chat said he started 2 weeks late. This is still spring training for him. You think that is a fair statement?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do think that is fair, and that's why I'm not overly concerned about this just yet. But it is something where if those numbers don't tick up, like his fastball was so big for him last year. I mean, there were a lot of starts where Gallen didn't really have the feel for his other pitches, and he would just throw like 60% fastballs and no one could hit his fastball because it has such great life. And the velo, last year he averaged about 93.5. So yeah, I mean, Gallen he's such a smart pitcher, right? I mean, he's so cerebral. He knows how to get hitters out. So you get the sense that he would figure out how to make do with kind of any situation. But that fastball is really important for him. So, well, it's just something to kind of watch moving forward.
Well, of course, another thing to watch moving forward is this baseball team. And a great way to do so is with our friends at Game Time. Game Time will hook you up and get you the cheapest price on last-minute tickets. You can save up to 60% off by buying tickets last minute for not only sporting events like Diamondbacks baseball games, but for concerts, comedy shows, theater events, anything else that you're looking to attend. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason, and that's because not only is it aesthetically pleasing, as Jesse would say, but you're going to save money. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Game Time app with code First Pitch. That's First Pitch, all one word, FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code First Pitch for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And also make sure to check out BetMGM Sportsbook app. It is the place to not only make baseball more fun, but all of these sporting events during this time of the year more fun. You can check out our PHNX bet show. Of course, our guys Damon and Shane will always get you right in regards to all their ideas on what to bet on. Today, actually, Jacob gave me one, and you might not like this one, but Jacob did ask me if Juan Soto, betting on Juan Soto for a home run is easy money, if that's just free money against Ryan Nelson, who's known to throw a fastball like 50% of the time.
Juan Soto we mentioned Lourdes Gurriel being second in all of baseball in Fangraphs WAR. Juan Soto is third. Juan Soto is a monster series against the Astros. Yeah.
So download the BetMGM Sportsbook app right now. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account. Use our code of PHNX to sign up. When you place your first wager, you will receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Again, sign up for that BetMGM app and use that bonus code of PHNX. Place your first sportsbook wager through the Sportsbook mobile application for at least $10. You will receive up to $1,500 back if bonus bets if the bet loses. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Bonus bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Well, we thank you guys for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, sign up. Do it now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever we go live. Be here all the time. Drop us a like. Gabby loves it when you do that. And I know we have a question about Gabby, which we'll get to shortly here. But of course, if you're listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you're subscribed over there. Leave us a review. We always appreciate that feedback. Well, you guys know what today is. And, you know, we've been busy. This has been a wild spring training season, but things are settling down, and we're getting back to what we know, what brought us to the dance, what we are at our core. And of course, what that is, well, every year is our year, right? Every year is the year of the snake. Every month on this show is Black History Month. Every month on this show is Women's History Month. And every month on this show, you guessed it, Black Women's History Month. Every single week is Shark Week. Every single day is Trans Visibility Day. And
every day is April Fool's Day.
Every day is April Fool's Day, of course, and every day is Earth Day. But on Mondays, damn it, on Mondays, we go to the mailbag. Damon, let's go.
My mailbox, always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox. And then once in a while, there's a letter that makes me go, wow, wow, my mailbox.
Wait, Coyotes are doing Mailbag Monday?
Yeah.
What?
It's a really original idea.
Oh,
I wonder where they got it from, Derek.
I'm going to sue some people around here, that's for sure. But of course, let's get to some Mailbag Monday questions. What do we got, Damon Dog? First question comes from Adam Fox, the Adam027 on Twitter, and he says, what will happen first? Lourdes 10 home runs, Corbin 20 stolen bases, Kelly 40 strikeouts, the Fox moves back to Arizona. Well, this is promotion for himself, I feel like. Is that what this is here? I feel like Lourdes 10 home runs is going to happen before any of those things. Lourdes 10 home runs might happen before the end of the Yankee series.
Yeah, I'm trying to, of course, take my very mathematical approach to this. So Lourdes, if you project Lourdes to hit 30 bombs this year, which would be a really, really good season for him, 10 would theoretically happen at about the 2-month mark of the season, right? Mm-hmm. Corbin, if you project him to be at like 60 stolen bases, that also happens around the 2-month mark. Merrill Kelly, 40 strikeouts. I think that's going to happen a little bit earlier than the 2-month mark. You're probably expecting him to get close to 200 strikeouts by the end of the season. So 40 would be, I think, a little bit earlier than that. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's between Merrill Kelly, 40 strikeouts, or the Fox moving. And I think I would lean toward the Fox moving. 40 strikeouts after 1 month is a little bit ambitious. So.
At least he'll get to see all of it in person by moving. He'll get to come here and see these games.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
That works out for him.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got? Corb Carroll. Hey, Corbin Carroll. Is this his burner account? What's happening? Corbin Carroll asks, the biggest weak point of the team still appears to be the bullpen. And you got to pronounce it there, bullpen. What relievers out there seem like they would be a good fit at the deadline? And who could you see being shipped out mid-season in return for those relievers? I want to say that at least addressing that second part we brought up on the show last week about how some of the things that were said by both Mike Hazen and Ken Kendrick would lead me to believe that the ones that are in jeopardy of being traded are in the minor league system right now, right? Obviously, you'd have to account for roster positions and a lot of that. So it doesn't mean that guys that are currently on their roster wouldn't potentially be part of a trade package or something like that. But that definitely was addressed that we would be looking at potentially some of those young players being the ones that could be shipped off.
Yeah. I think the Diamondbacks bullpen, I do agree that the Diamondbacks bullpen is probably their weakest link at this point. Not to say it's going to be terrible or anything, but particularly without Paul Sewald at the back end, it might be a little bit harder to piece together some of these close games. If you got Ginkel going in the 9th, then who are your 6, 7, 8? If your starter gives you 5 innings, those are some pretty big questions that we don't really have answers to. But yeah, in terms of guys that could be out there, we'll have to see how that takes shape. I mean, so much of that is dependent on which teams are in the race and which teams are not in the race, which it's pretty early to say that at this point. Emmanuel Clase, of course, would be a highly, highly desirable reliever to trade for at the deadline. But of course, that's if the Guardians are not in the mix, which I think they very much could be in the mix. They got off to a really, really good start this past weekend as well. So we'll have to see how things take shape there. But yeah, I think it is likely that the Diamondbacks, if they are in good position at the trade deadline, that they will be looking to trade for a reliever. And it's hard to pinpoint who the prospects would be that they're giving up. But yeah, it's not going to be guys off the major league team, you wouldn't think. It's going to be guys coming from the minor league system. We'll have those conversations more as the deadline gets closer.
And again, it doesn't mean that certain guys that are even on the roster right now, couldn't be part of that. But look how quickly, for instance, Jake McCarthy, who was, a player that the Diamondbacks were reportedly getting phone calls on. Look at how important he is right now with the loss of Alek Thomas. Hopefully it's not a significant injury, but if Thomas loses some time, if he misses some significant time, like you're going to be very, very thankful that McCarthy is still part of this team and that you didn't consider accepting one of those offers during the offseason. Yeah,
that's a good point. Jorge Barosa, I guess, would be next in line there, and I'm pretty curious what Barosa can give the Diamondbacks in the majors, but he's another guy where you don't really know what you're going to get. So there's something to be said for McCarthy, who even though he wasn't great last year, right? He's still kind of trying to find his way back to that latter half of 2022 when he was just very, very, very good and hitting third for the Diamondbacks basically every day. Yeah. But there's still something to be said for just knowing what you're going to get with McCarthy, where he can give you some good at bats. He can get on base. We know the impact he can have once he's on base, and he's a pretty good defensive outfielder as well.
All right, what else we got, Damon? The next question comes from Blake Allen at Blake Part 2 on Twitter, and he says, Hazen has talked about tapping into the farm system to make improvements at the deadline. What do you think are the most obvious areas of improvement? I say left-handed reliever. What say you guys? This goes right along with what we were just talking about, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, right now it definitely feels like pitching is the main concern. I don't like depth in a couple of positions isn't great, but it's still there. And as long as it's not a catastrophic injury that the Diamondbacks, experience, then they for the most part are fairly solid at a lot of positions around the diamond and even in the outfield. Obviously, Jake McCarthy, like we said, big help there having him, because without him, you really start tapping into those young guys. But I feel like pitching is the key. It's what wins championships, and what we saw from the bullpen last year was the reason why the Diamondbacks not only made it to the playoffs but had the deep run they had. If you watch Snakes Alive, Brent Strom directly says the bullpen is the reason why, in his opinion, the reason why they made it as far as they did. And it's hard to refute that, right? But right now, things still look pretty good. Scott McGough, outstanding so far. And again, he's a guy that we were missing. So it's great to have him back and for him to be as productive as he's been. Same thing with a few of the arms there in the bullpen. It doesn't feel like we're going to miss Sewald a tremendous amount, but
we'll see. We'll see about that.
Right? We got to have these close games actually happen, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I would also again say, bullpen is going to be the thing that I think they're pretty clearly going to want at the trade deadline. It's almost hard for me to see them really needing anything else. Which maybe that's an outrageous thing for me to say.
It kind of is, but
barring,
I don't disagree with you.
Barring major injuries in the rotation, why are you looking for rotation help, right?
Yeah.
If you've already got Jordan Montgomery and Eduardo Rodriguez over the offseason, I don't really think you're going to need that. Position player wise, I guess you can always add some more thump to the lineup, but like, what position does this person play, right? You already have Jock Peterson and Randall Grichuk as a platoon in the DH slot. I guess if there was an injury there, maybe you'd want to go get some big slugger for the DH slot. But yeah, I guess it's just going to be based on injuries. Like they might need other things based on what happens over the course of the season. But right now, the bullpen is really the only thing that's like, yes, you're probably going to want to add there at the deadline.
Absolutely. All right, what else we got, Damon? Next question comes from Jacob Schultz at Jacob Schultz 05 on Twitter, and he says, with two starters coming into the rotation, which 2/3 Ryan, Tommy, and Bryce get sent down. Also, does this give them leeway to turn Nelson into a one-inning guy? I think that there is a little bit of an issue with that, and that is the fact that Ryan Nelson and Tommy Henry are already stretched out as starters. And I don't think that they really want to convert them to bullpen arms, but I don't know what their vision is for their future. I think, again, due to depth, you're going to want to keep those guys stretched out. You're going to want to send them down to Reno and have them continue to be able to give you significant innings. But one of them might be very valuable as part of the bullpen, and that might be the opportunity they have to contribute to this team and be a part, to be on the major league roster.
Yeah, I think that with Montgomery and Rodriguez, you're certainly not going to move anyone to a bullpen role until those guys get back. Sure. But once they do, I do think that it could give them. We talked about Slade Ciccone. The Diamondbacks apparently are maybe interested in using him as a reliever moving forward. I think they're going to probably keep him in the rotation in Reno for a while to be there as starting rotation depth just for these next few weeks at least. But maybe he's a guy that they would move into a multi-inning bullpen role. That's kind of what Torey Lovello had been outlining a few weeks ago. And Ryan Nelson is the other guy that really stands out to me as if you put him in a short, if he's in a 1 inning or 2 inning stint at a time, does that 95 mile an hour fastball suddenly become 97? And even though the secondary stuff There's still some questions there, I think, moving forward, but I think there's probably enough there from a secondary pitch standpoint where he could just sort of let the fastball eat and just kind of throw the other stuff here and there to keep hitters off balance enough. Ryan Nelson, he closed in college. He does have some experience pitching in a bullpen role. I could see that being a route they go once we get to that stage a few weeks from now where Montgomery and Rodriguez are back and you feel a little better about the rotation depth.
All right. Well, according to Braden in the chat, as well as Nicholas Dalton, can confirm that the Diamondbacks outfielder Lourdes Gurriel Jr. has been named the National League Player of the Week.
No surprise there. Yeah.
From the Yankees has been named the AL Player of the Week.
So this is a big series. The two best players in baseball. Two hottest players in baseball, I guess we can say.
Yeah. Well, one of them's the best.
The two best.
Lourdes. Yeah, two best.
Yeah, two best. Yeah, right.
All right. What else we got there, Damon? Next question comes from Justin McDermott. Dearmont. I don't know. We're bad at names sometimes. How concerned should we be about Gabby's rough start?
Not very. I mean, we're still so early in the regular season that I'm going to be hesitant about being concerned about much of anything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too early. But I will say the at-bats haven't necessarily looked great. I mean, I think so much of what Gabby did at the end of last season was just make better swing decisions. And we've talked a lot about how his hit tool is so good that it can get in his way sometimes, where he can chase that slider low and away and still put it in play. He's one of few hitters that can get to almost anything. But in order for him to really do damage, he needs to lay off that slider, right? He needs to lay off those pitches that are on the edges and really work counts and wait for his pitch. And we haven't seen him do that particularly well early on. He's hit a lot of ground balls. That's been another thing with Gabby, where he can be a bit of a double play liability at times because he just sort of hits grounders to the shortstop over and over and over again. We saw a little bit of that this past weekend. So it's too early to read much into it. Gabby could have 3 really good games against, or maybe 2 really good games against the Yankees, and suddenly his numbers are looking pretty good again. But something to watch for sure. I don't think the Gabby Moreno 850 OPS is something I would lock in just yet for people who are expecting that from him this year.
Currently hitting 167 with a 481 OPS. I think my Gabby leading the team in home runs thing.
You're not feeling so good about that.
I'm not feeling so great about that crazy bold prediction that we did. But if it makes anybody feel any better or any worse, the Cubs are currently up 5-0 on the Colorado Rockies in the bottom of the 8th. So they're just a bad baseball team.
Yeah,
we'll
they
see
are bad. They are bad. People are really excited about Shota Imanaga's first start against, or first major league start with the Cubs, but it came against the Rockies. So,
by the way, you nailed his name. It's Justin McDermott. So there we go, Justin. Thank you.
There we go
for confirming that.
Justin's been a long time. Long time
listener,
viewer.
Long time.
We owe him
the respect of getting his last name. At least getting an honest effort like you did at it, for sure. All right, what else we got? Let's do one more, and then I got to read some ads. Ryan Hanley you can figure it out there. I'm not spelling that out. Hanley asked, if you were shagging balls during batting practice, would you be giving max effort, barely moving, or just having a conversation? I don't know what kind of question this is. What does he even mean?
I mean,
Wait, come on. I'm giving nothing but max effort. Are you kidding me? I might be shagging balls, but in my mind, Damon, it's a tryout, right? They're gonna be like, look at the effort this kid's putting in out there, and that's it's just a compliment to be called a kid in that scenario. But
Derek would be doing. You would be doing what you did at the Fall League Home Run Derby that we attended, where you were like bulldozing children.
I was not. I was purposefully not. That was the problem. But if these kids are getting out of my way in the outfield, like during a home run derby, I am knocking them all over. I would embarrass myself on national TV. I would try to get to every single ball. Left field, right field, center field. It doesn't matter. I'm all over the place. And I'll probably catch none of them. But max effort is the only way.
Doing Allen Iverson step overs after he knocks a kid over on the ground.
Yeah, that's
going. You're too small. Doing this to the kids.
The one thing I learned from the Arizona Fall League Home Run Derby is those kids aren't all innocent. They're out there giving max effort too. I saw them swinging elbows like they were Charles Barkley.
Me and my friends, when we played ball, we were just kind of mess around the entire time. You're shagging. You don't need to put in that much effort.
I just think if Derek got the opportunity to do that, like during when major league players were taking batting practice, he would really feel the need to rise to the occasion.
Of course I would. That's crazy.
We should see if we can get you in there for the home run derby. You can be like one of the kids, like chasing all of the.
I'm telling you,
chasing all the like soft liners in the outfield.
Those kids are goners.
Let's dress Derek up like a little kid too. Like put him in some overalls and like a cap with a little propeller on the top of it.
I shave this beard off, I definitely look younger than you would expect me to. That's for sure. But of course, max effort is the only way to go. I know you would be making it look like you were trying, but you really wouldn't be. I feel like.
I would put in a reasonable amount of effort, but I wouldn't. I'm not leaving my feet.
When you tell Jesse
not going
to
too
jump,
crazy.
He's not going to ask how high. He's going to question why. Theoretically, you would ask him to jump and what would be the purpose of it and what would we accomplish by having him jump. And then if he did jump, he's only jumping once. That's it, right? And not even a full, like he's not doing like an NFL combine draft thing where he's trying to see what his vertical is. He's just giving you a little hop. That's the most you're going to get out of this man. Of course, he also does a terrible job at feeding himself, as do I, and that's why we love Factor meal kits, because Factor meal kits... I
haven't eaten anything today, Derek.
I have also not eaten anything today.
Nice.
See, this is the problem with us. Factor sent me some amazing like boosts that are also part of their food program. They're kind of like immunity boost, which those are things that I don't usually buy those type of things to feed myself, but they're trying to take better care of me than I am. And God bless the good people at Factor Meal Kits. Eating is stress-free when it comes to Factor Meal Kits. They have their delicious ready-to-eat meals that are fresh and never frozen. And it's chef-created, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. And they are bangers, let me tell you. I can't express how important a good sauce is with a meal like this, but every single sauce that they have with like a chicken breast or whatever like the protein is always out of this world. Plus, they always have solid sides with it, and they just do a better job at taking care of us than sometimes we can. If you're looking for gourmet meals, you can try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. So, of course, Factor is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast, premium options with no cooking required. And they celebrate Earth Day all month long, too. Every day is Earth Day with Factor Meal Kits. Look out for Earth Month Eats badge on the menu for their lowest carbon footprint meals. Head to factormeals.com/DBACS, PHNX DBACS 50, and use code PHNX DBACS 50 to get 50% off. That's code PHNX DBACS 50 at factormeals.com/PHNX DBACS 50 to get 50% off. And of course, if you forget your Factor meals at home, which we tend to do, you can also feed yourself over at Illegal Pete's. That's where you will find Damon. That's where you will find reverse nachos. You'll also find the strongest margaritas in Arizona at Illegal Pete's. Their irresistible drinks and mouthwatering food will fill all of your heart's desires. And right now, they are bringing you a win with their legendary sound check deal. You can bring in a ticket stub from any ticketed event and get a draft beer or house margarita for a penny. Illegal Pete's wants to celebrate with you, whether it's a pregame or postgame party. They got you covered on all your game day needs. Must purchase an adult entree to redeem Illegal Pete's sound check deal. Illegal Pete's, your go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer. And also, of course, if you are a diehard, make sure you check out our new shirts, get your discount. If you're not a diehard, go join us over at gophnx.com, become a diehard, and you can pick out whatever shirt you want over at the phnxlocker.com, including our 2 brand new gorgeous shirts right here, the Defend the Pool, which we will be doing on July 31st in person, as well as Sunday Fun Day, an absolute personal favorite of mine. I love t-shirts that I have so many black t-shirts, Damon. I have so many black t-shirts. I can't. I love the Defend the Pool one, but this teal job, oh my God, I'm going to wear this all the time. So whether you're going with Defending the Pool, Sunday Fun Day, or both, you can get those at the phnxlocker.com. And again, if you join us as a diehard member, you can get one of those shirts for free, along with discounts on all of your purchases over at the phnxlocker.com. Discounts with our partners, discounts on our events. It pays for itself, not to mention all of the wonderful content you get from Jesse and myself and everyone here at PHNX in our Discord and in our written pieces. So join us today and become part of the family. What else we got, Damon? We got some more Mailbag Monday questions. Next question comes from our guy, Tim Ankenman. And Tim asks, I got my wisdom teeth
Sweet
pulled.
Tim.
Sweet baby Tim. Tim says, I got my wisdom teeth pulled an hour ago. How much should I milk it to do absolutely nothing for the next 2 days but watch baseball and eat ice cream? First of all, Tim, delete this tweet. Because you've already left a paper
blown
trail.
your cover.
You're totally blowing your cover with this, right? You might think the missus or your boss doesn't follow you on Twitter. They use burner accounts, my man. Get rid of that evidence. Second, you better milk it for longer than 2 days. Your wisdom teeth got pulled, my man. Jaw sore, can't do anything. Got to take pain pills. They make you very drowsy. Not safe to do chores or work. Must lay on couch. Speak like that too. That might help too. Caveman speak when you're hurt always works.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add.
Yeah.
I mean, to the maximum, right?
See, Nihilistic Bat says for 2 days you can milk that for a week. Let's milk it for a week. Let's watch this whole series. Let's go on the road with these wisdom teeth being pulled, baby. You know, that's the best I got for you. Don't ever let anybody, like, we don't often get parts of us removed, right? When you get something removed from your body, milk it for all it's worth. And AZ Baller says, don't eat ice cream. I don't know why, but I need more information on that. Is that like bad for your sockets or something? I bet it is. Yeah, see? Thank you, Tim. Go get rid of it right now. All right, what else we got, Damon? Nathaniel Kosher at Nathaniel Kosher asks, is it possible that Kevin Ginkel Wally Pips Seawald? Oh, that's an old term.
Yeah, what's the Wally Pip story again?
Wally Pip was a first baseman for the New York Yankees back in the
You
olden
don't know
days.
this, Jesse?
Oh yeah,
This is shocking.
yeah. Wally Pip.
You're
This-
Mr. Baseball.
We discussed this before the show, so I am aware of it now.
Yeah. But for those of you that might be unfamiliar, Wally Pip missed a day of baseball with a headache. He asked to be removed out of the lineup because he had a headache, and then that ended up resulting in a man named Lou Gehrig taking over his position at first base, to which Wally Pip never saw the light of day again when it came to playing first base. So you don't want to get Wally Pipped in baseball when that comes up as a term. But I mean, it's a good question. We've talked about this. We've even considered it. We know that Kevin Ginkel is most likely this team's closer of the future, but is that future now? With Paul Sewald out, Kevin Ginkel is most likely going to assume that role. We know that Torrey might go with someone else on occasion based on matchups, but for the most part, he did say that he only had conversations with Kevin Ginkel about taking over the closer role. That was important, because we had to ask 3 questions to get Torrey to admit that part, and you had to ask it in a very strategic way for it to come out. But he eventually said, when asked if he had conversations with anybody else about the closer role, he said no. So meaning Kevin Ginkel is their guy. Now, I think if he does succeed, it makes it hard to go out there and disrupt what's going on. I would see Torrey maybe trying to ease Paul Sewald when he comes back into the role if we saw Ginkel just really on a roll. But I mean, if he has a bad outing even in his first or second, which we saw him when he first joined this team kind of not have a great outing, Paul Sewald could be moved into a different role. I doubt that because I feel like Torrey is going to just go kind of with his solidified, back end of his bullpen once this all comes together. It's just, I don't know. What I've seen out of this team, at least, is that the guy that deserves it lately, and this kind of goes back to when they moved on from Mad Bum last season, the guy who deserves it is getting the role. And they did that with several positions last year.
Sure.
And I think that
took a while.
It takes a while. Right. Yeah. You're not going to, I'm probably the worst part about what I said is probably saying Paul Sewald has 1 or 2 bad outings. No, it would probably take Paul Sewald having a month of some pretty poor outings in order for Torrey to pivot. But I mean, I think that if Kevin Ginkel was on a roll, he might be willing to pull that trigger even a little bit faster, considering this is an important season and they are all in this season on with what they're doing.
I mean, I think on paper, if you look at last season, Kevin Ginkel had a better 2023 season than Paul Sewald, right?
Correct.
Both were good. Both were absolutely good. But if you look at the regular season numbers, Ginkel's ERA was about a half run lower, maybe more than that, maybe a little more than that. And if you look at the postseason, Ginkel also was better than Sewald. I mean, he didn't give up a run, right? It's hard to beat that. This just comes down to a role thing for me. Paul Sewald was acquired to be the Diamondbacks closer, and Paul Sewald is going to be the Diamondbacks closer until, as you said, if over an extended period of time, he showed that he wasn't fit for that role, which is something we don't really expect to happen. So I fully expect that Paul Sewald, whenever he is ready to go, will supplant Kevin Ginkel as the closer, really regardless of how good Ginkel is. Ginkel could not give up a run and convert every single save opportunity over the next 2 months. And I still think Paul Sewald will become the Diamondbacks closer when he gets back. That's the reason he was acquired. And it's not like you're losing with Ginkel not being the closer. Ginkel being the 8th inning man and being really, really good is also very, a huge asset for the team. So yeah, I don't really see any possibility of Sewald losing this role before he gets back.
All right. What else we got there, Damon? From Travis Moore for me says, is the upside still there with Drew Jones? Still seems like a lot of prospect evaluations have soured on him given his swing issues. Yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's fair that some people have soured a bit, but this is what being a prospect in baseball is. I mean, you're working on things, you're being coached there. I think the raw talent is still there with Drew Jones, and the Diamondbacks have an excellent coaching staff. I don't feel like, as long as he is coachable, as long as he is a guy accepting of coaching and is working to get better, I don't see him not working out. But it's baseball. Baseball is what it is. And sometimes guys, no matter how gifted they are, no matter how bright their future might be, some guys just don't put it together. I don't see Drew Jones as being one of those guys. I really don't. I just think he's struggling right now because of some setbacks that he's had with his health.
Sure.
And he's behind. Baseball is just that game that, like, you draft a kid, you get excited about him, and then he like disappears for 5 years before you ever hear about him. These days we get to know about prospects much more than we used to, just with all the reporting and all the information available. But still, I think that Drew Jones is still going to be somebody that lives up to the hype. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Jones is only 20 years old, right? I mean, the outcome he hasn't done the Jackson Holiday thing. So I guess in some ways he'll always be compared to Jackson Holiday because he was taken right behind him in the draft. But that's not really a fair comparison.
At least they didn't pass on Jackson Holiday to draft him. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, that would have been a different conversation for sure. For me, Drew Jones, the question with Drew Jones is not what his ceiling is. It's more so what his floor is, right? His ceiling is as high as it's ever been in my mind, because there's still a chance that Drew Jones figures out, a very, very real chance, I think, that Drew Jones figures out how to hit, professionally and figures out these swing issues that he's had, the stepping in the bucket and kind of bailing out all these issues that we've discussed. He's so young. And as you said, I mean, he's been through so many injuries and whatnot at this point. He hasn't really had a lot of time to iron out these problems. So the ceiling is as high as it's been, as it's ever been. I don't think his ceiling goes down just because of one season where he doesn't really put things together. But the floor is still a question and will continue to be, is he's going to be such a good defender in center field that gives him, at least I think the floor of being like a useful major league player. But is he an everyday player? Is he an all-star? Is he a MVP candidate? Those are still questions that we're not going to get answers to for a long time.
Well, one question we'll never get an answer to is what the Diamondbacks would have done if fucking Josh Van Meter would never have won that goddamn baseball game and they would have ended up with the number 1 overall pick.
That's true. But I still think, for the record, they would have picked Drew Jones.
I know.
Which
and
probably
that would have made it look so much worse.
Which would have made Diamondbacks fans
I wanted
in
Elijah
retrospect.
Green, so let's not even get started on bad decisions when it comes to that. But
I mean, maybe Elijah Green can still be good.
Yeah, might be. We'll
book's
see.
Not closed there.
It's not closed on any of these guys because it's baseball, right? Baseball's pretty wild like that. What else we got there, Damon? Next question comes from Nick at Real Native Nick, and he says, what would have to happen for this season to be considered a success? We've been asked this question a few times, but we thought we should address it considering the addition of Jordan Montgomery, because I think we both feel like Jordan Montgomery has completely changed the expectations for this team. I'm not going to use the goddamn word standard. I'm talking about expectations now. You can call it a standard all you want. You can try to label it anything you want. The expectations are now through the roof for this team, and it's hard for them not to be, considering how good this rotation is and how much money the Diamondbacks went out and spent this offseason to make this team this good, right?
Yeah.
The front office, Mike Hazen, the ownership, Ken Kendrick, they did their job, and they did it well. Mike Hazen made some deals that were incredible that we didn't expect them to make, including Lourdes Gurriel, which we thought was going to be a free agent that signed with another team at the end of the season. We didn't really predict him coming back, all things considered, and that is proving to be one of the best moves that Mike Hazen made so far, right? But I think that the expectations are there that this team is going to not only make the playoffs, but succeed in the playoffs. I think it has changed to the point where an early exit in the first round might be considered a bit of disappointment.
How deep do they have to go?
I don't know. Like, I would have just
Is a
accepted
second round
the playoffs.
is a second round exit, like, is, say they're in the wild card and they get out of the wild card, but then they lose in the division series
to like the Braves or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Sure.
Is that a disappointment, or is that okay?
It's hard because if you're losing to a team that's significantly better than you on paper, like the Braves or the Dodgers might be considered, then I can't imagine it being a disappointment. But I wouldn't lie, after what we saw this postseason, my eye level has changed, right? So it's like, once they get there, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. I'm not even going to be a person of reason at that point. And for me, it's World Series or bust.
Not me. I'm going to be very level-headed.
Disappointment. You're going to be real even keeled.
Yeah, Dave's going to be real even
for sure.
This man's going to be a maniac. We're going to have to literally call people to help us contain him. We might get a small cage in the office. I don't know.
As long as we don't lose to the Phillies or the Dodgers, I'm straight. I don't want to lose to those two teams.
You need to lose to a new team.
Because owning those fan bases has been like everything to me.
Yeah, no, that's true. It has meant the world. It has absolutely meant the world.
I feel like if they lost to the Dodgers or Braves in the division series, people would get it in a sense, but people would still be disappointed, right? I mean, There's been enough hype around this team over these last few months with the World Series run and what they did this offseason. People are going to be probably really disappointed no matter, what round they were to lose in, regardless of when it was, even if it was in the World Series again. But yeah, on paper, like, what would be a successful season for the franchise as a whole, I still would probably just set the bar at making the playoffs. If you make the playoffs, and I would maybe add to that improving on last year, like winning more than 84 games. I still think that would be successful in the grand scheme of things. But if people want, people are like, no, I need them to not only make it, but not be a first round exit. Like, I get that.
Gabriel says winning the World Series or nothing. I think Damon's a big fan of that.
There might be, I don't think he would be alone in that at all.
Ryan H says #finish the story. He's really trying to hit me in the heart with that one. That's a pro wrestling thing, Jesse, as well as that's a great. Maybe we should start using #finish the story for the Arizona Diamondbacks this season, because obviously last year was a story, right? It was a storybook, a goddamn movie. This Snakes Alive series, which we still haven't gotten part 5 of. So I'm fairly certain someone cut shirtless Derek into that. And then someone saw a final edit of it and was like, that guy can't be in there. So it's my fault. I'm sorry, you guys. But, it has felt like a finishing the story kind of thing with this team. And I don't know, like, last year was just such a magical season that it's going to be hard for anything short of the World Series to not feel like a disappointment to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think what we want, though, is for this team to be competitive annually. Right. We want to watch this team and we want to know that every single year, at least for the foreseeable future, that this core and the pieces that they can add each season is going to be a team that is a playoff contender. And I think that makes it less of a disappointment, when you start seeing your team make it, year in and year out. It's hard. It's hard to get there. Right. Especially with the Dodgers being in our division. It almost feels like we're always kind of set, for a wild card spot. However, there is one team leading the division right now, and it ain't the Dodgers, baby. It's your Arizona Diamondbacks.
No, sir.
Technically. Technically, it is.
Technically, I'm sorry?
Technically?
Well, because the Dodgers aren't behind the Diamondbacks in terms of games behind. But the Diamondbacks have a better win percentage than the Dodgers.
Technically.
So, technically.
I'm taking the hat off. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this with you.
I'm just stating facts, Eric.
Let's go. Last question.
Reason to get all angry
I'm
about
curious with you, technically. Let's go. What do we got, Michael? Michael says, short hair Corbin Carroll or long hair Corbin Carroll? I don't know. I want him to be the most efficient, effective Corbin Carroll. I've thought about this question entirely too much, Jesse. You know why? Because, short hair Corbin Carroll, more aerodynamic, right? Less time maintaining his hair. Or does he? I don't know. Maybe longer hair. Maybe long hair don't care, right? Maybe long hair don't care. And maybe short hair involves him putting that, junk band on in a little different way. Maybe he's spending too much time. Maybe with the short hair, now he has to spend too much time at the barbershop during the season to maintain the short hair.
I had thought about that.
You haven't thought about that. The long hair, He can just do whatever the hell he wants. This is a very important question. You know what I would prefer maybe? Shaved head Corbin. Right?
Wow.
Completely aerodynamic, as fast as he could possibly be. Not to mention no trips to the barbershop because he can just
He can just do it himself.
Yeah, get one of the boys to do it. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about efficiency here. Corbin Carroll doesn't have time to worry about how handsome he is. He's just naturally handsome. That part's taken care of. He needs to go and play baseball as much as possible. So anyway, that's Ernesto says mullet Corbin. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I'm willing to hear out mullet Corbin.
I just feel like in baseball, I hear what you're saying from the aerodynamics perspective, but I just think in baseball, hair is so important, Derek.
Flow?
Like flow.
Yeah.
Like
lettuce.
lettuce. How many times do we talk about guys and we use
lead the league in flow? Are you kidding me?
How many times on
Lourdes
this
Gurriel
show
gives us such an advantage,
Yeah,
right?
you have Lourdes on your
100%.
team. You already skyrocket to top 10.
But then
it
you
doesn't
got
matter who else
Alex.
is on your
Alex's
team.
hair is absolutely gorgeous.
Alex
you got
so
Jake
hot.
McCarthy. When he cut his hair, it was like the world had ended for me.
Gabby.
Dyeing his hair? Going the same route as Lourdes?
maybe it wasn't
Gino? How did we not
Gino.
How
mention
did we not
Gino?
talk about Gino's hair? Oh my God. Gino puts us over the top. Like, that was an unnecessary ad. It's like adding Jordan Montgomery to the lineup. We didn't really need Gino's hair, but that solidifies that we have one of the best, flow lineups. I don't even
It's
know.
top
how
one.
Maybe
It's
it
top one.
wasn't just the power of friendship, Derek. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
We have top 1 hair in the league. You have Lourdes and Gino on the same team. I'm sorry. The conversation is over.
yeah, you're not wrong. Do we have the probables for this week, Damon? Yeah. Let's take a look at the probables for this week. And thank you guys all, obviously, for your questions for Mailbag Monday. It wouldn't be what it is without you. But here we are, what the Diamondbacks have to deal with this week against the New York Yankees for the next 3 days here at Chase Field before they go on the road. They go on the road to Atlanta, I believe, right?
They do go on the road to Atlanta.
So this is a
Big weekend
very,
series
very
coming
big
up.
week there coming up. But the Diamondbacks have Ryan Nelson going on the mound against Gill. We got Gallen against Cortez, and we got Merrill Kelly against Carlos Rodon. Pretty thankful that we're not getting Garrett Cole in here. And these Yankees are looking pretty solid. But if the Diamondbacks, if they win this series, I don't know if there's any more question about, if this team is who we think they are after the way they beat the Colorado Rockies. This is a series where if you go out and perform and you succeed, then now people, I think, will start giving them credit. You beat the team you're supposed to beat. This is different. This is one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. So I feel like this is much different.
Yeah, apparently the Yankees' first starting pitcher, their starting pitcher tonight, his last name is pronounced Heel. Heel. Just straight up, which does
he
not.
He is a heel, so that works.
It doesn't really track in my brain very
good
well.
Guys,
but
right? Remember Paul Sewald said that? Good guys, Diamondbacks, Yankees, the heels. So of course they have
there you
the heel.
go. Yeah, it tracks. The Diamondbacks benefit enormously from the fact that Garrett Cole is injured. He would have lined up to start against Zach Gallen, which as a baseball fan I would have enjoyed. I would have enjoyed.
Very much so.
But the Diamondbacks benefit from, I guess they're facing Carlos Rodon in the series instead of Garrett Cole. That's sort of how it works out in my
Two
head.
lefties. Right, Nestor Cortez and Rodon.
Yep, back-to-back lefties. Heel is a righty. So yeah, this is a big series for the D-backs for sure. The Yankees are not only a much better team than the Rockies on paper, but they are a very, very hot team. A 4-game sweep of the Houston Astros is not easy to do at all. The Astros, I think, are one of 3 teams that has not won a game yet at this point. The others being the Marlins, who are kind of like a middle tier team. And then we also have another team who's eluding me right now. I can't
Jesse's
think
broken.
of. I'm broken. I had it. I don't know where it went.
It's not the Diamondbacks.
But yes, it's one of the worst teams in the league. Obviously, it's not the Rockies, but it's one of the other very bad teams around the league. And yeah, the Astros are one of just a few teams that has yet to win a game, and it's because of what the New York Yankees did in that series, which was really impressive. So,
White Sox?
Yeah, it's the White Sox. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, the White Sox. So you've got one team that hasn't won that's very bad. You've got one team in the Marlins that's kind of okay-ish, and then you've got the Astros who are very good and also have not won a game. So the Yankees really had an outstanding first series. Cortez didn't necessarily pitch all that well. Carlos Rodon didn't necessarily pitch all that well. It's really just the Yankees offense going crazy. Juan Soto, we talked about. He obviously just being named the AL Player of the Week. He was outstanding. He is my MVP pick for. I just think that he is going to be very, very good. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. If the Diamondbacks win the series, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to win 95 games or whatever, but it is significant, and it will prove a lot more about them than beating the Rockies.
Well, Jesse's heading over to Chase Field right now to check that out. Make sure you guys check it out as well. Love to see you guys out there tonight because again, we need the fan support. Everybody got to come out. Chase Field has been rocking all weekend long. Sunday, understandable, it was a little less there. It was Easter Sunday, so but let's get that building rocking tonight. Of course, in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the people's producer, Damon, is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are Damon's Dogs. Bark, bark. Of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram. I'm broken as a person too. I can't say words.
Yeah. Also, I forgot
Derek.
a team.
Didn't sound right.
The Mets also have not won a game.
Oh,
yet. So I'm really broken.
Reese Hoskins broke the Mets, by the way.
Reese
Can we talk
Hoskins
about him?
He owns them, not Stephen Cohen. It's Reese Hoskins.
Yeah, Reese Hoskins owns the Mets now. They're going to build a stadium or statue of him out front. He just proved you can't take the Philadelphia out of Reese Hoskins. You can take Reese Hoskins out of Philadelphia. You can't take the Philadelphia out of Reese Hoskins. Fucking wah, by the way. That's an all-time great slander move there, and I love it. But I also love that we already got a base clearing in the very first week of baseball. So God bless this game. Of course, God bless all of you. Thank you guys for stopping by. I hope you have a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow with a post-game show after game 2 of this series with the New York Yankees. Again, in the meantime, have yourself a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when Lourdes Gurriel is on your team.
We all silly like the mayor.